All right, so here is a book talk for pages 82 to 100 in The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. So we started here with slouching towards Thanksgiving, and doesn't start off very promising, right? Arnold is lonely. Not only is he lonely, but he's growing all sorts of zits. He's alone. He's all by himself all the time. He keeps talking about it, droning on and on about it, and finally he says, "Maybe let me tell you something good that happened." So he is in his geology class with his science teacher, who may or may not actually be a science teacher, and they're learning about petrified wood. And well, he knows something about petrified wood. He knows that it's not actually wood, that the minerals have actually replaced the wood, and so now it's not wood anymore. And he shares this information with the class, and the teacher does not believe him. The teacher doesn't believe him at all, actually, and another kid, Gordy, speaks up and says, no, actually, he's right. And so he thanks Gordy. He doesn't thank Arnold. Kind of sad, right? Because this is a stereotypical kind of a thing here. And where it's almost like Arnold is just sort of disappearing. There's another little piece about that right here in the front, where he says, "Zitty and lonely, I woke up on the reservation as an Indian. Somewhere on the road to Riordan, I become something less than Indian. And once I arrive at Riordan, I become something less and less and less than Indian." So think about this, and how people have to change who they are to fit into different places. And he feels like he can't be himself. He feels like he can't be Indian in this white world, and how that makes him feel like less than, and makes him feel very alone. And it's something to consider when we meet people who are different from us. When people who are minorities in a group, you need to think about how they might feel and why they might have to change who they are. Or do they have to change who they are? They don't have to, but he felt like he had to in order to fit in. And that's just a sad thing to keep in mind. And then he had this stereotypical man thinking that he was an idiot and that what he was saying wasn't true. And it wasn't until a white person spoke up and said, yeah, actually, he's right, that Mr. Dodge gave it any consideration. Probably also made him feel not very good, right? So he's not happy about that. But Gordy gets all the credit and we move on. And Gordy is a dork afterwards and just like doesn't want to have anything to do with him. But they form a friendship. Don't worry. We get to that a little bit later on, right? We get a little bit of information here about school and how Arnold gets to school every day. So school is 22 miles away from the reservation. And some days he actually walks. He has to walk to school some days because his parents don't have enough gas money to get him there. He's got a little picture about the sad situation of getting to school, right? I don't know about you guys, but that shows me that he has a lot of perseverance and determination to get to school. It exemplifies some of his external conflict that he may have, and possibly some internal conflict as well. So he gets home one day and everybody's crying in the house. Why are they crying? Well, they're crying because his sister got married. So she finally left the basement, went off and married some guy who's a good poker player from Montana. So why are they upset about this? I mean, didn't they want him out of the want her to get out of the basement? Sure they did. However, in their culture and in their family, so these societal and familial expectations in this family is to stay on the reservation, to stay with your own tribe. And that she left the Spokane Indian Reservation and went to Montana, and her parents may feel this as a slight bit of a betrayal. And Arnold's kind of thinking about it. He's like, maybe I betrayed them too, because here I am at this white school. So I think that dealing with a lot of ideas of betrayal and fitting in and where you do or don't fit in. The parents are a little bit upset about this, but she's gone. She's married to some man who is in Montana. And he's not really sure how he feels about it at first. And he's talking. He's like, I can't believe she married him for this silly reason. Like, he can play poker and he'll gamble big. Like, is that really a reason to marry someone? And then on top of that, mom says, like, he's kind of ugly, But when we get down to the bottom of page 90, says, how weird is that? It's almost romantic. And I realized that my sister was trying to live her romance novel. Man, that takes courage and imagination. Well, it also took some degree of mental illness too, but I was suddenly happy for her and a little scared. Doesn't this seem sort of like what Arnold did? So it seems like the both of them are kind of living out their dreams. They're both doing stuff that is courageous and takes stepping outside of yourself and into a different situation in order to find yourself, which is sort of what she did and what Arnold's doing by attending the school. So everyone's in shock. And let's see, the next day, Arnold decides to approach Gordy again. He's like, look, I'm all by myself. Gordy is all by himself because he's a freak and I'm a freak. So maybe we could just be freaks together. And he goes up to Gordy and he's like, listen, we need to be friends. And so they decide to be friends. They form a friendship. Now, they're not sharing super secret dreams and stuff with one another. It's not the same kind of friendship that he had with Rowdy, but it is a positive friendship. Now, some days, Gordy gets deep and he says, listen, they're in the library and they're studying, right? He says, you have to read a book 3 times before you know it. The first time you read it for the story, the plot, the movement from scene to scene that gives the book its momentum, its rhythm. It's like riding a raft down a river. You're just paying attention to the currents. So he says, this is the first way you read a book. And then he says you read it for the words, and he gets a little bit more detailed and serious there. But this whole idea of riding a raft down the river, he's using that in a metaphorical sense, saying you got to just kind of ride down the raft and see where it's going to take you. Where is life going to take you? Where is the story going to take you? How is it going to unfold, right? And we go over to the other page, and they're sort of he's talking about, you know what? It's not just books. No, like I draw cartoons, and I draw cartoons to understand the world better, and I take my cartoons seriously, just like you're taking books seriously. And he says, you know what? If you're good at it and you love it, and it helps you navigate the river of the world, then it can't be wrong. So here's Gordy giving him some affirmation for what he does. He's like, you draw cartoons to help you understand the world? Great. If it helps you navigate this river of life, this thing that we're on, then it must be good. Gives him that affirmation, and that makes him feel really, really good. I also like this line that he said, the world, even in its smallest parts of it, is filled with things you don't know. What a big idea this is. He's talking about this library. He says it's a tiny library, but if you only read 1 book a day, you'd still be reading for 10 years, and there'd still be more for you to learn. So each little piece, each little day is a chance to kind of fill yourself with something that you didn't know before, which is kind of nice, right? And he talks about how learning these new things, reading each book should bring you joy. Reading each book should bring you something new. Of course, he uses the word boner over and over again, but he goes on to explain that what he means by that is joy. He says, I mean that it brings you joy. And he just thought that he was being funny the way he was saying it. So Arnold tells us, he certainly helped me through school. He not only tutored me and challenged me, but he made me realize that hard work, that the act of finishing, completing, of accomplishing a task is joyous. So he learned how to work and enjoy what he was doing. And this makes him feel good. You know, he's like, maybe I am different, maybe I am a freak, but you know what? I'm finding joy in what I'm doing. I'm smart, and I'm learning all this new stuff, and that's a good thing. So that's really nice. Then he gets this email from his sister, and his sister is seeing a different side of the world that she never saw before, right? So she stayed on the reservation, stayed in her basement. She never would have known about a suite in a hotel, right? She didn't know that Indian fry bread was in other places than where she was. She didn't know that white people and Indians mixed in the same land and got along. And so she's experiencing that for the first time. She's also experiencing some white people that want to remove themselves from the reservation, but their town is in the middle of the reservation, so that's a little odd. But she kind of goes through what's going on in her life, and she ends it with, you know, it's a dream come true. I love my life. I love my husband. I love Montana. So she is experiencing a new world, sort of like Arnold is experiencing a new world, and he's finding this new world through books, and so this is very exciting. So hopefully this helped you understand these chapters just a little bit better. We'll see you next time.